This is Sons of Mort Thraken. I am Jay, and we have...
Big D.
And B.
Actually, I'm going to go with average D.
All right, this video is to discuss the most valuable player and the least valuable player of Game of Thrones, Season 7, Episode 3. D.
I'm going with Tyrion.
Why?
For various reasons. First of all, he was the central character, basically, in this episode, in my opinion. He gets Jon Snow there to talk to Daenerys. He puts him at ease right off the bat, and kind of they don't really miss a beat there. And he gets everything set up to negotiate for the Dragon Glass, which I think is going to be a huge plot point moving forward. And then, when no one believes Jon, at least Daenerys doesn't believe Jon about the Army of the Dead, he sort of has Jon's back about all of that. So I think Tyrion's there. He's really in his element. He's providing advice. He's using his wit and his charm to kind of get people to do what he thinks is the best thing to do.
I do think he did a good job of mediation between Daenerys and Tyrion, kind of being the go-between, and when he's talking to Daenerys behind the scenes, when she's basically like, he's crazy, I don't believe him.
Right.
He's kind of downplaying some of what seems like eccentric behavior or beliefs, even to the point when she says, what was Davos saying about him being stabbed in the heart? And Tyrion just intelligently plays it off as they have their beliefs.
Right, and the thing that distinguishes Tyrion, and I think in a lot of this from what I'm worried about where Jon is going. Jon has a lot of Ned in him as far as the idealism, and he won't back down, and he wants people to believe what he's doing. He's not satisfied with getting just the things that he wants. And so Tyrion, in a reversal of that, basically is very pragmatic in his approach.
Okay. B, most valuable player.
I would say Cersei. I think that she certainly has had sort of reversal of fortunes from before. I think that between her and Daenerys, she was definitely seemed like the underdog. Momentum seemed to be in Daenerys' favor. And then in this last episode, you have Euron sort of being inspired by her, which I don't know how much credit you can give her for that. I think that we're supposed to believe that Euron finds her sexy. I don't think that hair really works for her, but I suppose, to each their own. I think that her sort of inspiration of Euron to turn the tides and march in with Yara on that dog collar and her nemesis. I mean, a lot really happened for her. She picked off the murderers of two of her children, essentially, in that last episode. So
she did, and she took great pleasure in doing it.
She got a little rough justice.
She's come a long way from shame.
Except that hair.
Well,
what
you know
is
what?
Up with that? It's so terrible. And this is a tangent, but isn't it weird that random girl who opens the door when she's having this emboldened lovemaking session with her brother, the girl at the door, there's like this kind of weird moment with this girl at the door who has her same haircut. That just seems strange.
Her same haircut and a look between her and Jaime, kind of like...
Yeah, maybe Jaime likes that.
Yeah, no,
I think the haircut is just a Game of Thrones version of the Rachel from the 90s.
Okay, my most valuable player, easily, Ollena. She is defeated in battle. She loses everything she has. I mean, she's already lost a lot. She's lost the majority of her family last season's wildfire cathedral explosion. And she has a plan. She thinks she's picked the winning side. Nonetheless, she loses it all. And in spite of all that, she has this I do not give a shit approach to everything. Jaime comes in, so you beat us. Yep, we beat you. How'd we fight? As can be expected. And how are you going to kill me? And after Jaime tells her, it's going to be painless, I've got some stuff for you to drink, she drinks it and proceeds to just tear his world apart. And to do the right thing in planting those seeds of your sister is a monster and she is ruining you. She's ruined countless lives, and your son, Joffrey, was a cunt, and I killed him.
I love, in context, when she's talking to Jaime right there, and she's like, I have done horrible, horrible things, and I've never lost any sleep, but your sister is something else. That's powerful. That was a good scene.
So that's my MVP. All right. And did you have anything else?
Well, I found that scene really interesting because I think that her admission that she was the one who poisoned Joffrey is actually going to have a lot of ramifications potentially between Jaime and Cersei, because Jaime has always kind of, traditionally at least through the series and through the books, he'd always been such a defender of Tyrion, and Cersei was always the one who sort of despised him like their father. And so now that in some sense Tyrion's been kind of vindicated. It'll be interesting to see how that
affects his psyche.
It's a wedge between him and Cersei, and
another one.
Yeah, and she planted several of those, and I think that one kind of rocked his world.
Agreed.
Okay, D, least valuable player.
Okay, I'm going with Jaime. In this episode, and it's been coming for a while now, Jaime has no will of his own. Everything he does is basically for Cersei. He's lost that Jaime-ness, which I liked from previous seasons, where he at least has his own kind of game or desire, or there's something in there that we like. And this season, especially this episode, he's just sort of going with the flow. The only thing he did was to get his knob gobbled at one point.
I don't even think he wanted that.
Which was a passive act too. He just basically rolled over.
Yeah.
He was probably on bottom also the whole time.
Yeah, in fact, he was pushing away, and then gave in to his weakness, which is his sister, right? And even though he's not really into it.
So anyway, I don't think he's really progressing much. And as a character, he sort of just is around. I guess he did poison Lady Tyrell, but even that was not his own bidding.
That was an act of kindness.
And if you recall, he had to ask permission to do it painlessly. He basically had to talk her out of it.
Right.
So she's clearly.
But I think it's setting. I think least valuable player in this episode, but I think it's all setting it up for the reversal where he's gonna eventually turn on Cersei.
He will.
I like it.
He will. All right, B, least valuable player.
I would say that would be a tie between Yara and Theon Greyjoy. Theon
Bitch.
basically does. Absolutely. I mean, we've sort of seen him disintegrate over the series. He's always kind of a submissive bitch, essentially.
The dude has PTSD.
Well, he's had moments of redemption.
He has PTS. He no longer has V.
He has moments of redemption, right? So, I mean, he went through the whole Reek thing. He cowered multiple times. And then he helped Sansa out right at the end there, help her escape.
That's true. He
so
did.
Brief redemption.
There was a redemption. There was a glimmer. And then he utterly abandons his sister at the end of episode 2, jumps off the ship. He gets pulled out of the water.
Can't even pull himself out of the water.
Gets flaccid fish. And then Yara, who's been this swashbuckling lesbian badass, is drugging it with a dog collar on. So I think that she kind of disappointed there.
I don't think she's a lesbian. I think her sexuality is pretty fluid.
Well, that's possible. That's possible. But I kind of like her sort of. There was this scene in the last season where she's got this prostitute on her lap and she's just kind of having at it. And I think she's very empowered.
Well, there was the scene in the bottom of the boat between her and Ilaria Sand before Euron came at him. But I think that point in the plot, that it seems like the Greyjoys are just in dire straits, and in part because of Theon's cowardice, is set up so Theon can come in and sacrifice himself to save her. And I think that's what will happen, because she's the only one who seemed to stand by Theon throughout all of his shenanigans. All right.
Your least valuable player.
Bran. Bran is...
What a weirdo.
was absolutely the most disappointing, because he has been set up to be potentially the most powerful person in the entire story. He has these abilities to affect things that happened in the past. There was the scene from the Tower of Joy last year where he yells his father's name, his father turns around. So potentially he can go back in time and communicate. He can warg into animals. And what does he do? He comes back and just recounts his sister's wedding night of horrific rape in a mellow voice. It was weak.
And weird.
And weird.
Let's
and
be honest,
disappointing.
it was so weird.
I was excited for him to be back.
And he's the source of information, right? He knows that Jon Snow is the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and their aunt, Lyanna Stark. And he could tell all that information. Instead, he comes back and he's just super weird.
You looked so beautiful when you were being raped.
Yeah, almost as if he didn't know there was a rape that night. It's like maybe he only gets glimpses.
He says he gets bits and pieces.
He knows.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what his deal is.
So it was weird. That was weird. I think he'll grow this season to a point where we know he can do something big and exciting. For now, I think it's like Superman in any of the Justice League shows. You kind of have to temper what he can do, because he can just, Batman versus Superman, come on.
Don't you find it odd how many of the male characters in this show have some kind of mutilation?
That's interesting.
I mean...
It all comes back to why George R.R. Martin was circumcised as a boy. He's just never gotten over it.
Back to season 1, Ned Stark gets his head chopped off. Varys has been castrated.
Jaime
Theon has been castrated. Jaime has no arm.
Loses his hand.
Bran is
paralyzed.
What's that about?
That's true. People are flawed. Makes for interesting characters and stories.
People with amputations are terrifying.
Captain Hook.
Exactly.
All right. So those are our most valuable and least valuable players. This is Jay.
I'm D.
B.
And we are signing out.
Wiener, 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 one wiener next to another wiener, wiener, two wieners alongside yet another wiener, tangle soft, wiener, nice and soft, fluffy, lolly rags, wiener, fluffy wiener, fluffy wiener.